Just because nobody said anything to you in Japan definitely doesn't mean what you were doing was fine. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving deep into the hidden meaning of Japanese silence. If you've ever visited Japan, or maybe you're planning a trip, it's super easy to think that a lack of direct complaints means you're doing everything perfectly. But today, we're going to learn how to read what isn't being said. We're unpacking exactly why assuming no scolding means no problem is actually the biggest trap travelers fall into. To do this, we're going to walk through 4 everyday scenarios. First, we'll look at the morning and the really surprising rules around blowing your nose. Then, we'll hop on the morning commute to uncover the unspoken agreements on trains. By midday, we'll examine exactly where you should and shouldn't eat your street food. And finally, at night, we'll find out the true limits of silence when it comes to your rolling suitcase. We'll wrap it all up by giving you the exact tools you need to read the air safely. Stick with me, because by the end of this explainer, understanding these unspoken rules will quietly but completely change how you experience Japan forever. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the meaning of silence. So, foreign travelers very often misunderstand this lack of correction as total acceptance. Like, you do something, nobody stops you, so you naturally assume, hey, this is totally fine, right? Well, actually, Japanese silence has some intense gradations. It ranges from mild discomfort to quiet tension, all the way to an absolute breaking point. For many Japanese people, disrupting the harmony of a shared space is considered a much heavier offense than the annoying behavior itself. It's rooted in a mechanism known as shame culture. Calling out bad behavior directly exposes both the person making the mistake and the person doing the correcting to public shame. So staying silent, it isn't about being endlessly tolerant. It's actually a form of highly rational risk management to protect the dignity of the entire community. Nobody wants to be the one to break that peaceful air. Moving on to Section 2. Let's look at the morning, specifically nose blowing, which is a massive cultural reversal. Let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. We're starting our day early in the morning, and we immediately hit a hidden cultural reversal that catches almost every international traveler completely off guard. Picture this. You're standing at a stunning, historic Japanese shrine. The morning air is crisp, still, and just incredibly peaceful. And then, out of nowhere, someone aggressively blows their nose. In that perfectly quiet environment, the sound is absolutely shattering. In Japan, forcing someone to directly listen to your bodily noise is considered highly intrusive. It instantly shatters the shared peace of that space. Now, what's really fascinating here is the complete flip in global standards. In many Western countries, the norm is that sniffling is unsanitary, right? Stepping aside to blow your nose into a tissue is seen as the polite, hygienic thing to do. But the Japanese standard flips this entirely on its head. Sniffling is actually the preferred method, specifically because it minimizes sharp, sudden noises. Emitting a loud blowing sound in public is seen as embarrassing. And look, it's absolutely crucial to understand that neither culture is wrong here. They are simply operating from completely different historical backgrounds when it comes to public harmony. So let's summarize our morning scenario. Sniffling is the norm to keep the peace. Your practical takeaway? If you absolutely need to blow your nose, just slip into a restroom or a much less visible area. And the biggest misconception we need to clear up right away is the idea that just because nobody glared at you or tapped you on the shoulder, the loud noise was perfectly fine. Believe me, they noticed the disruption. They were just managing the risk by staying quiet. Okay, Section 3, the commute. Let's talk about unspoken train agreements. Let's see how this builds in a much more crowded setting. The commuter train. The stakes are definitely higher here because we're dealing with a confined space packed with people. If you observe a typical Japanese train car, it's remarkably peaceful. Now, there are explicit rules like announcements clearly state that talking on the phone is banned. But what about having a really loud conversation with your friends sitting right next to you? Well, there's no explicit rule against it. Yet, the quietness isn't enforced by a strict law. It's an unspoken agreement. Everyone in that car is collectively agreeing to keep the volume down to respect each other's shared space. But what happens when someone actually breaks that unspoken agreement? Say a tourist is chatting at full volume or their headphones are leaking loud music. Almost no one will say a single word to them. But very, very rarely, someone reaches their absolute limit and speaks up. And let me tell you, when they do, the atmosphere in that train car shifts instantly. The tension becomes incredibly uncomfortable for everyone present. The person correcting the noise is taking on a massive social risk by breaking the silence themselves, And ironically, sometimes they end up feeling more embarrassed than the person who was making the noise in the first place. So, wrapping up the commute, the quiet is a shared, unspoken agreement. Your practical move here is to simply keep your voice to a whisper, or honestly, just enjoy the silence while you ride. The misconception to drop right now is that unwritten rules are optional. Just because it's not printed on a big warning sign, and just because nobody is physically stopping you, definitely does not mean it's acceptable to break the communal peace. Moving right along to Section 4, Midday Street Food Locations. As our day progresses, we hit the midday scenario. You're out exploring, you're hungry, and Japan has some absolutely incredible street food. But here's a major point of friction that comes up with tourists. The issue isn't what you eat, but where you eat it. Walking through a beautiful street or festival is amazing. Eating at a food stall, totally fine. But eating while walking through a crowded area is actually heavily discouraged. To give you an example, the famous Nishiki Market in Kyoto has formally requested that visitors refrain from walking while eating. And look, this isn't them trying to ruin your fun. It's a deeply practical request rooted entirely in consideration for the people around you. So, the crucial point is understanding the mechanics of why this matters so much. Think about it. In a packed market, navigating through a dense crowd with a skewer of greasy food means you are literally just one accidental bump away from ruining someone else's clothing. On top of that, walking away means you won't know where to properly dispose of your trash, which places a really unfair burden on the neighborhood. The practical advice? Buy your food, stand directly near the shop, or find a designated empty space. Enjoy it right there and hand your trash back to the vendor. The misconception we're correcting here is that buying street food gives you a free pass to eat it on the go. It doesn't. All right, Section 5, Night. Suitcase sound limits. Now we transition to the night. You've had a great day, you're heading back to your accommodation, or maybe you're leaving for an early morning flight. This is the scenario where the limit of Japanese silence is truly put to the test. With the massive boom of vacation rentals, tourists are now sleeping right in the middle of quiet residential neighborhoods. This brings them much closer to locals than ever before. In the middle of the night, the harsh, plastic rolling sound of suitcase wheels on asphalt, or even loud street chatter, echoes incredibly loudly. Locals are highly sensitive to this intrusion. But remember our core rule, they won't open their window and yell at you. Instead of yelling, they do this. 561. In the year 2024, which is Reiwa 6 in the Japanese calendar, there were exactly 561 residential and noise complaints regarding lodgings officially reported to the local authorities in Shinjuku Ward alone. Rather than a direct messy confrontation out on the street, these invisible complaints quietly pile up. They get routed to the front desks of hotels or logged onto government platforms. So silence on the street absolutely doesn't mean peace. It means the profound frustration is being channeled entirely through official invisible channels. For our nighttime summary, you must be hyper-aware of late-night noise in residential zones. Your practical move here is simple, yet so highly appreciated by locals. If you're leaving early in the morning or arriving late, physically lift your suitcase until you're out of the immediate residential zone. If you can't lift it, roll it very slowly. And the ultimate misconception we're busting today, avoiding a direct scolding does not mean you successfully avoided causing a problem. Finally, Section 6, Reading the Air Safely. Okay, we've covered the morning, the commute, the midday meal, and the nighttime luggage. Now let's wrap this all up by equipping you with the tools to succeed. It's actually not that hard once you know what to look for. You just need to learn how to read the air safely. Here are 3 super practical hints. First, pay close attention to signs and announcements. If something is explicitly banned on a poster, take it seriously. They really care about it. Second, look at staff expressions. If a shop owner or hotel clerk looks suddenly troubled or stressed when you do something, that is your immediate signal to stop. And third, notice shifts in the atmosphere. If you're in a quiet room and realize you're literally the only one making noise, pause and adjust your volume. Now, before we finish, I want to present what we'll call the honest side. This whole culture of silence has both pros and cons. The incredible pro is that Japan is a very gentle, forgiving environment for travelers. You aren't going to be yelled at or aggressively attacked for making minor cultural mistakes. But the con is that problems can fester unseen, and tourists might unknowingly damage their reputation over time. But please hear this clearly. Despite all these unspoken rules, Japan genuinely welcomes your visit. Behind the quietness, there is incredible warmth and a real joy that you're there exploring their country. They just deeply appreciate it when you share their respect for the communal space. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Think about your own culture for a moment. When you're in your home country and someone makes you uncomfortable in public, do you speak up immediately or do you stay silent? Neither way is definitively right or wrong, but by understanding these deep cultural differences, we can navigate the world with a whole lot more empathy. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I hope the next time you're met with silence in Japan, you'll know exactly what it really means.